back, ladies and gents, to another wonderful episode. So we are back at it again on this '08 Sportster. If you remember where we left off on the last video, we need to finish getting this thing tore down so we can get it outside and start the cleanup process. But first, got to take a look at this front fender. Now, I had some ideas about how we can chop it up and all that and make it look a little bit better, but after looking at it the past couple days, I'm not so sure if that's going to be an option, but let's jump in first and take a look at this fender and see what we can get done. So on this front fender, you watch the other videos, you know how we explained we wanted to kind of, because it looks kind of like a motocross-ish fender, want to lower the fender down and maybe trim the ends a little bit to kind of make it look, you know, a little better, presentable. It's the fender that came with the bike, right? So can we take this thing, make it look better and make it also be usable? But here's what I've been looking at, and I'm trying to get this anglage right with my truck in the background. This is a 19-inch wheel. Now, I know I kept saying 18 in previous videos. I guess I could have looked at the freaking tire. But this is a 19-inch wheel. And the fender, what it's doing is it's getting a bigger gap as it goes. Because I'm pretty sure this fender is made for a 21-inch wheel. So is it circumference? Is that the word? It's got a bigger circumference. One of those school words. I don't understand it. But the circle's bigger. Let's put it that way. So my fear is if we lower it, and even if we cut it, it's still going to just have the ends kind of stick up. And that just looks silly. And you can even see it back here where it's even bigger. It's just a bigger gap. It just literally does like that. Not to scale, of course. So, I don't know. I stared at it for a while. And I don't want to put a ton of work into this only to end up scrapping it. Because even though this is a fender that's, you know, there's no telling what bike it came off of, it could still be usable for something else. And another thing I noticed too was right here, if you look where the mounts are, these have been beat on a little bit. This is actually bent almost in, get it, move the wheel. It's almost touching the tire. So I'm pretty sure whenever we remove this that we're going to see some bent metal and possibly mounts that don't even line up perfect. That's just my guess. But we're going to go ahead and loosen these and go ahead and pound it down just to see what it looks like, to, you know, at least give it a shot. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because, quite frankly, we can run this bike without the front fender. It'll still look good. And even if we have to, as much as I hate to buy something, they do make knockoff junk fenders you can get on Scamazon for like 50 or 55 bucks. So that is an option, but we'll see. But let's go ahead and get these loosened and see if we can't drop it down to see if it even looks decent if we were to just lower it. There we go. I figure we got to remove this fender anyway, so we might as well try to pound it down and see what it'll look like. Well, these bolts sure are rusted though. Good grief. It's funny how you get bikes or even cars and you'll have some bikes you got things that are rusted and other bikes they're not, but then the other bike will have something different that's rusted. That makes sense. It's just weird. These weren't too terribly tight though. It's just the theme of this bike. These bolts are bad though. Gosh. There we go. Those weren't too bad. This fender is not wanting to move at all, which means I'm wondering if this thing is kind of I'm wondering if these are bent in just to force this thing in there. Let's see if we can just hammer this down a little. Completely to spec, of course. I have a lot of ideas, very few good ones. I don't think this is going to work though. That's down pretty far. Now it actually still turns. Well, that looks, I mean, that does look a little bit better, but you can see how this rear fender, see how that kicks out like that? So in theory, I could cut it like up here, but the problem is, it's kind of what I suspected. The front's not too bad though. Not too bad at all. I could always do something where I like cut it right there, but I think that would just look kind of silly. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a fender, really. I mean, if you're going to do that, you're probably better off just removing it and just keeping it clean and not messing with it. But here, I suppose I could maybe cut there, but you're still going to have a little bit of a gap. I don't know. I do not know. Let's look at the other side. I just don't, and that's not hitting anything. I don't know. I don't know. I might actually think on this one a little bit, folks. It is possible. Yeah, I think I'm going to think on that. So let's just go ahead and get the fender off. We're going to take a look at it. And I've actually got a fender from a 97 Sportster that is for a 19-inch wheel. So let's put the two next to each other and kind of see if we can see the difference. Maybe I can take that fender and just pop it on there and we can look. The problem with that other fender, it's been wrecked or it's been dropped. So it's bent and it's just not, in my opinion, it's not, I don't want to use it on this bike is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. I don't know. I might have to think on that a little bit more because the front don't look too bad at all. That would actually work, but it's just that big gap back there. Anyway, let's get this thing popped off and compare it to the other one. Something I think I failed to mention earlier too is, you know, you can also angle this fender a little bit. So like if we angle it this way, it'll make it look better here in the front, but then you've got an even worse looking back here and vice versa. So that's the problem of having the two different fenders with, I guess, for a different circumference. If that's the right word. But let's take this thing off and see. Boy, it is tight too. I'm thinking, can I just pull it? I think so. Let's just see if we can tear everything up here. Oh, wow. It is, wow, it has been beat on, that's for sure. So threw that other fender on that I know was from a 97 Sportster for a narrow glide. And as I suspected, it's still got the kind of that factory gap that I can't stand, but it's, you know, it's the right circlage going around. The back looks much better, and the front is fine. I mean, it's factory the way it should be. The issue with this fender is, may not be able to see it on camera. Actually, you can. It is, the front is tweaked this way, and then the back goes that way. And it was a lot worse before, so actually just me bending it. But I'm afraid if I bend it anymore, I'm going to mess up those rivets on it. There's only so much bending you can do on metal. And then there's another, hard to show, I think you can actually see it there. There is another dent right there coming out. So I don't think this fender is worth messing with, personally. This would be a good fender to throw on some other bike that just, you know, if you're just using it as a daily rider or something like that, but kind of unfortunate. So what we're going to do, we're not going to let this slow us down. I'm going to just kind of hold off on this idea. We still need to get the wheel off, caliper, all the controls, everything up there. We need to get all this stuff off still and some more other odds and ends. And I can mess with this later if we want to, but honestly, I'm either going to just probably run it without a fender or maybe just go ahead and spend the 50 bucks on Amazon and just get one that'll actually hopefully work. So, you know, you take a risk buying stuff like that because it is junk, but let's move on and get this wheel off and make some actual progress. So we're going to get this caliper off of this bike first before we get this wheel off. So on this caliper, what we're going to do, we're going to remove it and just kind of hang it from somewhere on the frame until we can get the master cylinder off, and then we'll just take the whole thing off as one unit. That's the plan anyway. Let's see if this will loosen. There we go. Come on, give me my ratchet back. Thank you. If you ever do take calipers off of a bike or a car for that matter, just don't let them hang from the line. So I got this bucket here with this board on it, just something I can set it on. And it should come off in theory. There we go. Perfect. Let's get this wheel off. And for this pinch bolt over here, should be able to get it with this. Golly. A little tight. There we go. And the wheel should come right on out. And now, of course, the axle, you should just be able to pound it out with a mallet. Now, when you do this, you're going to have your spacers falling and all that. Just kind of pay attention where they go, and then you can put the axle back in the wheel just to kind of store it like that or whatever. Keep everything in order. Kind of makes it a little bit easier, but they only go back on one way. And it should just come on out. There we go. And there's the wheel. We got our axle back in our wheel, like we mentioned earlier. Also, We're not going to be changing this tire, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this rotor off. Now, if you've ever pulled these off, you kind of know they can be kind of a pain depending on the tools you use. So you've got these annoying Torx bits right here that I don't think you could ever get these off with just a ratchet. If you can, you're a better mechanic than I am. Also, you're going into these soft aluminum threads. So what I like to do is hit these with the impact just to get them loose. Then I like to follow up with the ratchet just to slowly back them out. If you ever feel them starting to tighten up, cross thread, anything like that, just torque them back in because you're already boogering up these threads inside these wheels. But we want to get this off so we can clean this up. So let's see what we get here. See, they just come out. They'll loosen pretty easy if you get the right tool on them. Well, now we can get to a little rustage back there. Now we can get to this wheel so much better. This cap or this cover on this side, should we pull it? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pull this as well. This is just a cap to cover these because you do have dual disc models. Now we can clean this up. It's amazing with just little details. And you can buy and replace these. I just scuff them up and paint them with like a aluminum-ish, I can't speak. You know what I mean. Some kind of a color that looks close to it, but good. So now we have a wheel that we can completely clean up, and that thing is going to look pretty good. There's not too many spots on it that are bad. There's a few little spots right there. And then this is the rotor side, and we'll use some just basic cleaners and a Scotch pad and all that and make this stuff look really good. And taking those rotors off can be a pain, again, if you don't have an impact, just trying to get the torque you need on these crazy Torx bits. I wish they wouldn't use them, but whatever. But if you can get the right tool, it really makes it easy. So nothing groundbreaking really to show on the front end after removing the wheel. All this is still, I consider it relatively new. It's 08. This is all going to clean up really good. There's nothing that's really bad. The fork sliders down here do have the typical, just where they've been beaten up, which is crazy because this thing doesn't have that many miles, but we're going to clean them up as best as possible. They did remove the reflectors, which I approve of, but it's like, come on guys, you left the you left the stickiness on there, so we will have to clean that up, but no big deal. We'll get all that done. But now we're going to move on to these controls up here so we can get all of our lines and wires and all that out of the way. And then, of course, once we move our master cylinder, we can pull that off along with the caliper as one unit. And one step closer to getting it clean, but let's get started on these controls. Well, if it wouldn't be so dang tight. There we go. This will come off. Of course it won't. Why would it come off easy? It's funny how all the stuff on this bike that's tight is the stuff that really doesn't need to be that tight. Oh, there it goes. Just needed a ratchet. Oh, that wasn't overly tight. I don't know if I'm going to keep these mirrors or not. They're not in horrible shape. I'm just, well, that's fine. Just drop everything. That's no big deal. They're not in horrible shape at all. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the bulky mirrors. They work good though. Definitely a safety thing, but figure that out later. So real quick before we remove the master cylinder, when you've got all your lines, you've got wires, you've got brake lines, you've got clutch cable, you've got throttle cables, take a picture or at least note down where everything is because it'll help you just kind of remember. Usually this stuff only goes one way, but it'll help you out in the long run. Also, when you're removing these, especially on this side, because you've got the brake light switch, I know some newer models may have a clutch safety switch or whatever you call it. These mounts right here for the actual levers or the master cylinder, also on the clutch, they index or lock in with these switch housings. So technically you can remove just these and force this off, but you're probably going to break that switch. So go ahead and loosen your housings up first so that they move pretty easy, then remove that. It'll make your life a little easier. And also these are Torx bits, so be careful. Oh goodness, this one there. There we go. Good. Tight enough, but not too tight. And then all you do, should be able to fish this out of here and remove it as one unit. All right, so you can see there, got everything removed. Master cylinder's intact, caliper's intact. We got our fluid in there still. Again, be careful with your lever wherever you set this. And if you can always go in between the pads here. If you need to, put your piece of steel, plastic, wood, anything. Heck, you could jam anything in there. That way, if you do accidentally knock this lever, you'll keep these pistons in there from coming out. But if you do, it's not a big deal. You can just push them back in like you're changing your pads. But we'll set this off to the side and we'll clean all this stuff up later before it goes back on. All right, now we're going to get this switch housing off. Probably going to leave these throttle cables on just because I want to get this intake off before I remove them, just because of how difficult it is to get to them. I don't want to break anything, but I want to leave the intake on while we wash it. So there are things that we're going to leave on during that process just because I'm trying to protect some stuff. Also, same with a lot of wires, which I'll explain here in a moment with some other situations. I'm just not used to all the dang wires. I'm assuming these pop off just like a standard carbureted model. Are they the same? Yeah, they're the same. Good. Boy, these are being kind of a pain. What is the dealio here, folks? Oh, there it is. Just had to do a little, had to force it a little bit. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Wow. I didn't loosen my throttle cables. So yes, loosen your cables. Same on your clutch cable. That's funny. I'm sitting here trying to figure out why that's so tight. Only the most high-end tools, of course. Why is this not turning? Nothing's ever easy, is it? All right, so I got this one loosened a little. I actually had to put some channel locks on it and that wrench, and it is, something is not happy. I think what happened is somebody replaced these grips and they cross-threaded something because it is bad. I think I can still get these off though because this one's backed off. And then I'm going to try to work on that cable, probably just soak it in something. Now, if it's cross-threaded, it's probably shot. Hopefully it's just some corrosion and I can fix that. There we go. These little flare things. Cool. That does have a secondary grip sleeve, so I wonder if I can say, I think I can cut that off and reuse that sleeve for another one. That's good. There. Well, that part worked. And then for our switch housing, let's pop it off and let it hang for a moment or for a while. So I guess on this side, I'll actually remove or loosen the clutch cable first, like the throttle cables. Little clamps right here. You know, these are actually handy. I gotta say kudos to this for a modern thing. They actually use these on a lot of bikes. They work better than zip ties, I suppose. Can't believe I just said that, man. Zip ties. What would we do without them? I'm about to hurt myself, I can tell. Oh man, this one actually does like it's supposed to. This is remarkable. Look at that. Oh, I didn't drop anything this time. And this side over here is basically a repeat, but it should be easier. Emphasis on should. That's one. That's good. And these right here should come out. There we go. So once you loosen these, let's see if I can get this on camera if I need to move that around. Here, we can do it down here. So since you loosen this off, back this off all the way, you can then rotate this all the way out, and all this has is this little pin in here, or plastic pin almost, that connects to, and that's it. Disconnects it. So, but if you didn't loosen it all the way, you wouldn't be able to get enough slack to pop this out. So that's why you got to loosen it. And these should just come right off. There we go. Let those hang down. Let's see if no, that's not coming off. No way. Yeah, that's going to be a cut it with a knife and just go to town with sandpaper and everything. Now, I don't know if I said it earlier, but the reason we're removing these bars is not just to clean them. We're going to repaint them because they've got some nasty spots on them and they're already black. So, this will be super simple. But we are going to put the top clamp and the speedometer back on because I do not, like I was saying earlier, I don't want to disconnect anything just yet. Oh, those were really loose. Promise I didn't loosen those yet. Oh, this one's not. Well, that's what I get. What I get. There. Goodness. That is a little concerning. It looks, oh no. There is some. Take a look at this. I don't know if you can see it towards the end, but at all. But there is some cross threadage. So probably what I'll do is get a shorter bolt because there's probably some threads boogered up in those risers. I'll just get a shorter bolt or cut this one below that because that's plenty of thread for this. And I'll fix that right up. Now when you're doing these bars, especially when you're putting them back on, if you've got them painted or they're brand new chrome, you might want a helper. I'm not as concerned about this because if it does fall, well, that fell. And I didn't hear it hit the ground, which is good, which means I'll be searching for that washer because they will kind of fall on you. All right, just kind of leave that hanging there for a moment. There we are. There's the bars. A little rust down there, but not too bad. That'll clean up. All righty, good. We're going to pop this back on. And of course, naturally, I can't find the washer I dropped. Never to be found. Well, aside from the throttle cables giving us some fits in this one little bolt right here, which is easily fixable, that went pretty smooth. I want to just kind of emphasize again why we're leaving a lot of these hanging on there, because in theory we could go ahead and remove all this and disconnect them. I want to keep all these connectors, if I can, plugged together while we wash it. It's probably going to be okay. I just want to limit any possibility of corrosion. We're already going to have this one back here for the computer, which I'm probably going to double up, another bag on that, as well as the O2 sensor connector. So just want to be careful on that. Once we get this thing in here and we remove this, we're going to gut all this as best as possible. And that should allow us to remove not only these switch housings, but the headlight and also the speedometer completely. So we can really get this thing back to looking as new as possible. But what we got left, we're going to do what we can, remove what we can on the forward controls, that side, and then of course over here, and then it will be time for a bath for this thing. So on this side over here, we are going to try to remove as much as we can on the controls. Couple reasons. Number one, I've got to get this off because we have to pull this primary cover to replace the gasket, unfortunately, but of course that'll help us clean this up good. And also right here, this, I'm not really familiar with these forward controls, so I'm just going to start removing stuff and see what happens. But it looks like I can just remove this Allen right here and this whole unit will slide off. And also this right here, I don't know if you can see it here on camera, but it is just all the all the chrome is just flaking off. I mean, I can almost peel it off. So there's a piece right there that just fell off. So I'm thinking we're just going to sand this down and spray it some kind of a, chrome color, which doesn't look like chrome, but at least it'll be like a silver. You can see that right there. Just pieces of chrome coming off. Keep wanting to call it rust. It might as well be rust at this point. So anyway, let's get this stuff off. And also when you do these, especially a lot of these small Allen heads and all that, go ahead and spray you some stuff on there because you never know how hard these are going to be. But so far this bike, for the most part, everything has been loose. Let's see. Oh, look, that was that wasn't even tight. Also, if you replace pegs, don't do like I did. I went on to Scamazon and just hurried up and ordered some cheapo pegs. Didn't even freaking pay attention that these are female mount pegs. I'm like, good freaking grief. I haven't seen those in quite a while, so pay attention, folks. Don't do like me. Easy enough. One peg done. Hopefully this comes off with ease. Yeah, there we go. Good. I was worried about that one. This whole piece should come off, I think. Should being the key word. Yes. Well, that doesn't just come off. So those of you that know are probably screaming like, ha ha. I don't know. We're going to leave that right now for now, like that for now. But there's got to be a way to get that out of here. All right, so we're going to leave on this for now. I am not sure how this press is in there. I'm going to have to actually, for once, go look at a shop manual or something to figure out if this is a press fit or what. One thing I did notice is this bolt should have, I believe it should have gone all the way through, because this threads through this mount and then through this. And it should have, it's an opening back here where we should be able to put a nut on the back, and that'll keep this nice and tight, whereas before it was always loose. So just going to wait. Worst case scenario, if I have to, I'll pull the entire control mount down here, because I'm going to pull these out one by one anyway, so we can clean them up, and we'll figure out a way to clean that up. Not worried about that. Don't want to just rush and break something, because I am sure this assembly is not cheap. Uh-oh. What did we drop? Let's see if this one actually comes off. I'm not worried about the bolt. I'm worried about getting the lever off of that shaft. Oh, wow, it's actually moving. Look at that. It's almost coming off without any motivation. There it is. Wow. Gotta love that. No motivation. A lot of times I got to take a screwdriver and just lightly pound it in there to open those up, but that did very well. All right, so we got this side done. Everything's cleaned up. I'm not happy that we weren't able to get this off, but we'll deal with that later whenever we clean up. Because our wash is not like the final clean. We're going to literally just wash it to get most of the grime off, and then we're going to go just take a rag and some cleaner and some elbow grease and go all over this. So this stuff will be dealt with later. That's fine. And this side here, all we're going to do is just remove this foot peg. I have no need to remove everything else. I can clean around it. In case you're wondering, I got tape on here just to keep me from wanting to hit the brake for some silly reason, since there's nothing in the caliper. Oh, it's coming off. Perfect. One change of plans on these throttle cables. So I wasn't going to remove these, but I don't know if you guys can see the light. I don't have like a full-on, video production going on down here. So we got the cheap light and the cheap camera. They mount right here, and these are all plastic, and I was going to be careful with these because, of course, Harley makes all this stuff plastic now. I didn't want to snap anything, but I do think I can get these off. So let's see, because I'd rather these cables not be on when I wash it, just because there's corrosion in them. I want to clean them off good before we put them back on. See if I can get that loose. Oh, yeah. There's one. Now, the question is, can I get this out here? Good grief. Man, maybe I may have to remove this. I don't know. No, I got it. Well, oh, here we go. Just open her all the way up, I guess. Good grief. I guess you don't want these coming off, do you? I get behind it. There. Bingo. There's one. Of course, that's not the bad one. And that should loosen this enough down here. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Boy, these things are gunked up. This bike, man, I don't think this bike has ever been cleaned. There we go. Both cables. Be able to pull these cables out. One thing I did notice, this is my first time, like I said, working on a fuel injection bike. It looks like the cables are basically the same as they did on carburetors. So if you ever remove these and you get confused, the one, at least in my experience, has always been the cable with the spring on it, like this, is the idle cable. And this one's the throttle. And of course, it's just, if you don't know which side's which, a lot of times they're a different size. I don't know if these are. These are the same size. So they're only going to work one way, even though these will both fit on either side. But you'll know which one's the throttle side. Technically, you don't need this idle cable. This is here as a safety thing. So in other words, if it gets stuck wide open throttle, you can just force it closed. Or just, pull in the clutch and turn off the bike. That would be another way to do it. But these should slide out, which is good because this one of these cables was giving me a fit. Oh yes, perfect, 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 perfect. There's one. Here's a better view if you can see it of the spring. That's typically your idle cable. It's just got that spring on it, which does make it more of a pain in the butt to install. And this is the one that we need to clean up because it will not adjust all the way out. And you can see this one right here is just bare wire with the cable, and this is going to be your main throttle cable. Again, you can run with just this. I ran a chopper for many years with just one cable. It is possible. Well, folks, I think we are now ready for bath time for this thing. We've got it. I could probably strip it down a little bit more, but good enough for what I'm comfortable with. I do wish I could have gotten that lever off completely, or that shift lever, or whatever you want to call it. But that's fine. We will address that later. And of course, I am going to try to cover up, protect all these connectors as best as possible. Just for the ones that are exposed, that are open, like that O2 sensor one right there, and maybe a little bit on these fuses. Might be a little overprotective, but you know, take the time to do it just in case so you don't get any corrosion. One thing I do want to be clear on whenever we clean this, and what I call kind of like a budget restoration, we're not just going to wash it and that's it. We're going to wash it to get the giant, the giant amounts of crud off that we can, which means that with this bike, there's probably going to be a lot of interesting stuff going down my driveway. But for example, you look down in here, this is all going to be hand scrubbed. We're going to go through everything. And then we're going to polish all this up, polish the cam chest cover, rocker boxes, everything. We're going to go through it. We're going to pull, we're going to pull bolts out and clean them up, everything. We're going to make it look as good as new. It won't be new, of course, but we're going to try our best on it. That is for sure. And I think this one, being that it's not entirely that old, is going to come around very nicely. But with all that being said, I do think we're going to have to wrap this video up right here. I do wish there's more I could have done on this front fender. Unfortunately, the one that came on it just isn't going to work. I do have that other one, if you remember. Somebody made a comment about how they chopped theirs up, and I might actually use that advice. So proof that I read your comments, and thank you for posting it because it's kind of helpful. The fender that I may use is from an older bike, but where the bend is, I think I can chop it up enough to get rid of the bend, if that makes sense. So basically just cut off the bad part and lower it. But I don't really need to worry about that right now because that's not something I need to do when the bike is kind of still dirty like I did the rear fender. So I'm not really as concerned about that. But that is something that we will worry about another day. Well, ladies and gents, we're going to be wrapping this video up here. Hope to be getting this thing outside to start washing it, and then we can start cleaning it up real good. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be ready for that future content. Also, I'm going to put a link down in the description below to our No Rules Life page so you can go check that out. But as always, I thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll chat with you next time.